I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I have duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russell, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Hello, welcome back to your favorite live weekly call-in conspiracy show, parapolitical conspiracy show if you want to, or parapolitical show if you want to church it up a little bit. We're at it again, me and Austin, Jose Galison and Austin Picard with you beautiful arty deadheads, breaking into this weekly dose of schizophrenia once again. We have plenty to talk about, and you never know which way it's going to take on this, which way it's going to go on this show. But probably to start off, Austin, we should probably just before we get sidetracked, just go ahead and just say it. The Kirk case, it has resurfaced its ugly head. There was a little bit of a lull after the initial Kirky, so things kind of died down. Candace explored a million different fucking theories. But then we just had this recent hearing. I forget exactly what it's called. It's like the
preliminary hearing that was week long for some strange reason. Yeah.
So now these things have come back up again, and now we're getting all sorts of new evidence and other stuff coming to the fore. Both sides are seemingly kind of, I say sides, but it really shouldn't even be a sides thing, although it's kind of become that. Both sides are taking this as proof of how they were totally right before. It's taken all sorts of different wacky turns, so it's all different ways we can jump in and analyze all of this. But yeah, what are you thinking of all of this? I guess my biggest takeaway is I've kind of been, I guess, with that whole both sides thing I'm talking about, this silly dialectic that's been created. I'm kind of disappointed, I guess. Not disappointed, that's not the right word, but I'm kind of, I guess, more and more just feeling, I guess I'm right in the sense that both of you are fucking, all sides are fucking stupid here, and whatever sides have been kind of artificially, seemingly created. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's become this weird grift session that truth has kind of gone to the wayside in all this.
Yeah, no, I mean, the way that I felt last week going into last week's episode, obviously that was only day 2, I think, of the preliminary hearings that were taking place all of last week. But in regard to Tyler Robinson, obviously, and his role in allegedly being the sole perpetrator and assassin of Charlie Kirk on the UVU campus, which it, to me, at face value alone is laughable, just considering all the, I mean, I guess not at face value because we were kind of drenched in the details from day one, considering just the strange pattern recognition that we see so very often in these high-profile assassinations, and especially emotion-arousing, violent false flags like that. Obviously, when someone legitimately takes a bullet or let's say a lapel mic explodes. Who knows what the official cause of death technically is, and obviously that's where everyone gets bogged down in the overreactionary details of basically where you fall on a given side of this debate. When in reality, I think, to me personally, and I should have started off by saying I didn't get to address this publicly yet, so rest in piss to Lindsey Graham's Ladybugs, right? I should say that first of all, because clearly, and I'm still waiting, right? I'm patiently waiting for Mitch McConnell a proof of life video that's not entirely AI generated, right? Which so,
I talked about this morning. I don't know what to make of all that, because the Mitch McConnell one doesn't make sense to me, because I believe my understanding is he already was intending on retiring in January. Also with all this stuff going on, he's also marked himself as absent from voting. So the only reason I could think conspiracy wise why they would even keep him around is for some sort of, if they're really willing to try to keep the storyline going until as long as they need it to be, if they're just trying to keep him as some sort of weird mystery spoiler, kind of like a WWE Undertaker sort of thing, which I don't know how they would, pull that off. I don't know. Maybe there's different voting mechanisms they can do to where he wouldn't have to show his face, so they could really weaken and Bernie it up. But I really don't understand the purpose of not, and especially with the Lindsey Graham thing. For those who aren't aware, they've already. I don't know exactly how it works state to state, but apparently they just appointed his sister to carry out the rest of his term.
Crazy,
so
man.
they didn't even have to change out the compromat. The compromat file there. So I guess I don't understand why the fuck he wouldn't they wouldn't just be like, oh, he's dead, and then let his Chinese spy wife take over or something for the rest of the period. I don't understand enough. I don't really understand what the incentive would be for the although it feels like he's dead, right?
Right. Oh yeah, it does. And I mean, just knowing, and I think what the last video we really had of Mitch McConnell was when he had the stroke, basically on live television. I mean, that's the last I can remember in regard to actually paying attention to anything in regard to Mitch McConnell personally. But still, it seems as if he was hospitalized, right, for over a week. I think it was maybe even longer than that. I'm not entirely
Mitch
certain
McConnell?
on the details. Yeah.
He's been gonzo for weeks.
Yeah,
and it's so bizarre too. He put out an official statement, and there was even an accompanying. I don't know how legit it is. I didn't look in to find out if it came from the doctor or something. But there was even a statement supposedly from the resident physician there to follow up. But yes, I forget the exact timetable, but I think it's been 4 weeks or something he's been absent. And the story is that he fucking fell, and there was no broken bones. There was no stroke, no heart attack, nothing significant, none of the things that would make sense. But for some reason, they've kept him in the hospital for these 4 weeks. They say it's a post-polio condition because he had polio as a child, which I don't know enough what that would really mean. I mean, he's a senior citizen. What does that really mean? He was walked as an adult, so it's maybe that just means you've got weaker muscles than other people or something, generally speaking. I don't know. It seems like nonsense to me. It makes no fucking sense. They have him in this, essentially he's being admitted to the hospital and just living at the hospital. Apparently he's absent. He's not able to attend voting for all of this. It doesn't even really make much sense. I mean, I know it would make sense if there was something here, they found upon his spill something, but they've kind of excluded all the major things purported to. So bizarre. Don't know what to make of it. It just doesn't really make sense why they would even lie. And like I said, there's some weird forward thinking political stuff going on there. They really are I know they have this SAVE Act thing everybody's worked up about these days. Both sides. That's the only thing I could think of. And I guess the big thing is that with Mitch McConnell absent from the vote and Lindsey Graham, I guess Lindsey Graham will have his sister taken over now. It's it makes it all the more tighter. This SAVE Act thing that they're putting investing a lot of their clout into. So I don't. It's going to make it so it's much tighter deal. But it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think it was originally it was about a fall, and then he developed mild pneumonia or something. Was the original reporting
there was pneumonia? Yeah. But
But
they said it was cleared up, and he responded well to antibiotics. So even still, I guess you could say some of that period of time makes sense because he has pneumonia and is an old person. But according to the doctor, that cleared up well, and he's doing well now. And And the way he worded it makes it sound like it's already been cleared up, yet we're still going to keep him and monitor him. And he didn't emphasize the pneumonia at all. That's what's bizarre about all of it to me.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, man, whenever it it comes down to, I think it was there's footage of him being like taken out on the stretcher and things. That's why people were initially kind of, I think, overreacting in a way. But who knows? It was like, I think. It made it look a little bit worse as far as the optics in regard to just how you would typically probably assure someone of that age and in that poor of health to the local hospital. You know, I'm sure that's probably, especially after a fall like this. But I saw the redheaded libertarian, right, Josie? I saw her post something just after Lindsey Graham died in regard to it was like basically, I believe it was in Qatar. You had basically this leadership, someone within the framework of the leadership of like the royal family, basically in regard to the leadership of Qatar, was also passed, right, and effectively died as well. And so it was like strange timing. And she just kind of mentioned the fact that this is all happening within this strange notion, considering a kind of like relationship and between the EU and the West and Qatar and basically how this could affect that relationship to some extent is the point I'm trying to make. So who knows? You never know, geopolitically speaking, if any of this does actually play a role in upcoming, electoral process of some kind or legislative action being pushed. But I definitely would much more be in line with thinking that, and who knows? I would think if you have national security at your home, maybe it's more likely that the FBI will enter your private residence after you pass, like they did with Lindsey Graham for some strange reason. And did you see that report where they even like re-entered his home after this sudden death that he had?
Someone's got to feed the kids.
maybe that's it. Yeah, it's just honestly, man, when you look at it though,
they don't want another Dutroux situation in their hands. Like someone has got to go check it on the kids, change the newspaper in the cages.
All I'm saying is that, and it couldn't be more perfect timing as far as Lindsey Graham's death in regard to this overwhelming expenditure with the Iran war. I think it was I saw $103 billion was like the number that's being quoted in 120 days of the conflict, which is honestly the real cost of the war so far to this point. And I would think
Nick Shirley was saying that he's rooted out so much corruption. I remember who he said it to him, but he said, somebody in the administration or somebody was saying that it's like you've basically caused the Iran war to be paid for.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Don't worry, we don't need Doge. We have Nick Shirley.
Right. So I'm not surprised. And meanwhile, Mike Johnson's out here. You saw, I think the homie tagged us in the same post of Mike Johnson on C-SPAN talking about the Pentagon requesting an additional like $350 billion to pursue some sort of domestic fight against communism, right? Which I thought that's
communism.
Yeah. Exactly. And wasn't that always the ridiculous justification of Project Operation Gladio, right? Is the communist threat, right?
Yeah.
So we have to obviously defend against the communist threat. So we need a blank check.
We're gonna set into a system which we will steal from all of you, and then we will take that money and then tell you about how you shouldn't collectively steal from everyone to fund the common good.
Mm-hmm.
So which I agree with, to be clear with, but it seems a little counterintuitive.
Right. But you remember whenever the escalation with Iran was really, it hadn't gotten the green light yet, but Lindsey Graham was out doing his little, promotional tour for the conflict itself. And he goes on Fox News and he's talking about how basically I'm not with any Americans who oppose this conflict with Iran and who are basically not lockstep in line with every policy that benefits Israel. So he said personally on Fox News, to all Americans at the time. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel until my dying day. Basically, is the proclamation that he makes on public television in the domestic U.S. So this is the sort of person that we're dealing with. Obviously, one of the ultimate war hawks, right? That have just been a part of this unfortunate permanent establishment that we cannot seem to eradicate or again, this is sort of the old guard, I think, falling to the wayside at a certain level, but in no way do they not already have these very much viable assets waiting in the wings to, I think,
you think Lindsay didn't have a Philip Paskey? Like, come on.
Right. Exactly.
You didn't think he had a sexy little boy toy doing all his dirty work for him?
You know he did, honestly, and especially knowing the way in which Lindsey Graham, what was the Ladybug story itself. I mean, everyone should already know who we're actually kind of dealing with personally. And I also kind of thought that strange reaction in regard to what seems to be these like, it's like a wave of AI, basically FedBots, right? That are kind of flooding our algorithms, and seemingly it's in some sort of major influence operation, it feels like, because instantly you have all of these accounts that are basically, pushing back against anyone who is anti-flock camera mass surveillance systems, right? Effectively is kind of like a strange thing that I witnessed taking place. Also, these FedBots were kind of like overreacting to the notion of anyone who is taking a victory lap to the fact that Lindsey Graham is no longer with us and will, at the very least, no longer affect us with his war hawk foreign policy stances and positions. And the notion that, we need to, I mean, obviously, I think that's an oversimplification of some like appeal to, emotion,
civility, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Which I understand. I understand the impetus to not be able to like not celebrate death. But at the same time, if it's someone who's like their whole thing is death, right. And also to some degree, it's like I don't, the idea is people, you shouldn't say ill of the dead. I actually think you should just be honest. Like, I mean, maybe not like, it depends on the situation, but like, I mean, you shouldn't allow death to whitewash somebody, because I think it does matter too. Like what kind of legacy you lead. I know a lot of people got mad at me with some of my Kirk stuff, and I said after, and it's kind of like, that's kind of the whole idea here. This is why it matters what you do during your life, because I mean, me and you could get shot in the fucking face right now, and like, you don't know. I mean, I've used to be a fucking grunt in the military, and if I'd gotten shot in the face over in the fucking Middle East or some dumb shit, that would have been my legacy. That's what I would have been left with. And same thing goes for Charlie Kirk, where he was at. I know a lot of people try to whitewash and say he was, trying to fight back against Israel. Maybe he was, but he did a lot of pretty shitty stuff around then too. But I forgot where my point was with all of that. But just kind of the idea of your legacy. Oh, the Lindsey Graham. Although I will say, I felt like, to your point of like, it felt gay. Like, I mean, on both sides. And so it felt like the exuberance for his death just wasn't there with Lindsey Graham. Not quite like it was for maybe like a McCain or something. If anything, like, I don't know, like even I felt conflicted about it. Like in a certain sense, I guess glad, maybe that's not the right word for it, because he was politically speaking a pretty effective force. So he obviously wasn't negative, but in a certain sense, it's like he is kind of a perfect foil. So he is kind of like a perfect thing to point to. He is kind of fun in his own weird, fucked up way. So it just didn't have the same. Whereas McCain is just so much easier to be like, fuck that guy. I mean, there still is a very much a fuck that guy to Lindsey Graham, but in like he's also this hilarious caricature of a human being too. If that makes sense. So like. And not in like it is completely deplorable, but in a comical way. Whereas McCain was more like dastardly as opposed to comical, if that makes sense. So I just didn't feel the exuberance of the people, delighting it. But at the same time, then it felt the accompanying like, you guys shouldn't be celebrating death, just felt extra gay, because you're like, they're kind of not really. At least that was how I felt. Most people were just kind of like maybe made a few gay jokes here and there. But like it didn't feel as vicious to me as like McCain. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm for the viciousness, but
he had more of a homosexual angle to it all, I guess. I don't know, as far as the Republican brand or conservative branding that you might want to apply to it. He was the epitome of what a gay conservative effectively presents themselves as. And honestly, man, like he was more of a shill for Israel than almost anyone you can point to in regard to public representatives in the United States government. And so just as far as being one of the key architects that you could always rely on pointing out to provide that point, right, just to the general public, and realizing the level of compromise and that these individual politicians have been compromised too. I think it's important to realize that he died doing what he loved, right? Steering America into further conflict abroad.
With fucking children in Ukraine.
Exactly. He's a fucking monster. And so any one of these people, honestly, if you're a public representative, I think you're honestly, you should be really, in a way, looked down upon by the general public. And so I don't really appreciate the notion that we need to take the high road whenever one of these monstrous lizard people, I guess, finally leave us, right? And I guess leave behind this massive void, which will be fulfilled in certain ways in terms of these very much compromised assets already, as I mentioned before, waiting in the wings to fulfill the very same role. It's just, the notion is I'm not supposed to be, and I get what you're saying, right? Like you weren't overjoyed with the news that Lindsey Graham. It's fucking weird to feel overjoyed when anyone is announced.
It just didn't hit the same as like other tyrants have, if that makes sense.
For me personally, it did in a way.
You were okay. I mean, whatever. It's subjective. I'm glad you felt happy about it. I'm glad it did something for you. I'm glad it made your dick jump, but it didn't do much for me.
It was basically the same as John McCain to me. It felt no different, right? That's the point I'm making, is that it hit very much the same. And so, again, he suffered this cardiac arrest or something. I heard Trump gave this hilarious statement. Did you see that statement on I think it was like Fox News or something, maybe Good Morning America? He talks about Lindsey Graham's, basically he says that his body part exploded, and he's talking about his heart. But the way he said it was hilarious, honestly. But again, this is all being announced, where he goes into cardiac arrest and suddenly dies. But this is all, I think, within like almost immediately returning from Ukraine, where he's like touring a drone facility of some kind with Zelensky, which is insane footage to actually see in the pictures that they had taken. He's like holding one of these attack drones, and it's just like, my God, man, like what he legitimately did represent as far as the face of the permanent establishment and the imperial war machine. I mean, this is 2 days ago in Kiev. He's talking about, he's basically attempting to escalate tensions and keep us bogged down in this conflict within Ukraine, which obviously is the goal. But in regard to just his sister being kind of like ushered in to replace him, I just thought, what a strange, sort of reaction is that the American people would be, and honestly, Southern Carolina citizens would be absolutely okay with the fact that you would just instantly swear in the sister of the sitting representative. Like, it's just strange to me that would even be kind of the fallout in terms of what would ultimately take place in regard to replacing Lindsey during this period of time. So it's like, obviously it's temporary, but she'll instantly have like a path toward resecuring that spot in a way, right? You would think, just in terms of the upcoming election in a certain sense. So who knows? But here it is. I just found it's a Newsmax. It was a Newsmax news segment where Trump made this statement. It's so funny, dude. About basically Lindsey Graham's body literally blowing up, which is such an insane way to legitimate. Hold on. Stop sharing. Okay. Let me reshare this screen because it messed up for some strange reason. But what the hell? This is crazy, bro. Like, did StreamYard update or something?
What are you trying to bring up a screen? It might be because I think Jacob had the slide up. Try again.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's it. Yeah. My bad. Sorry, Jacob. Yeah. So check this out. This is hilarious.
Lindsey Graham once called for Putin to be, taken out. You have any suspicions or worries? Do you think we know the whole story about his death?
Well, I think we do. We've had great doctors, and they talked about, a certain part of his body literally blew up. And that's a condition I believe his father had also. His father died very, very young from heart complications, and that's what Lindsey had. And it's something that's, number one, is very tough to see. And even if you see it, it's hard to fix, very hard to fix. And, he had a problem with arteries, and I thought he was like a 70% blockage. I said, Lindsey, you're going to have to go and take care of that. But this was not that problem. This was a different problem that wasn't really related. So
Lindsey Graham once...
So I just thought, again, hilarious clip, just because the fact that Trump never... he is unapologetically who he is. You can at the very least say that. But whenever I pulled up Lindsey Graham's sister to finish his Senate term, I just tried to look into the Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nordone. Is that how you pronounce her last name?
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, she's obviously she comes out and she was sworn in, in some weird public sort of here. Actually, we'll watch it briefly because it's strange. But ABC obviously.
That's from a few moments ago. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster appointed Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene, to serve out the remainder of his Senate term. They remembered the 71-year-old senator today in a press conference where the announcement was made. Take a listen.
I want to thank the governor for selecting me to serve the remainder of Lindsey's term. It is such an honor. Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him. My brother was the most amazing person, outstanding leader, and just a genuinely good man. He was kind and considerate and loved by his family dearly.
Look at all these weird...
Senator Graham died over the weekend. A medical...
Can I say something real quick? Can I say something?
Go ahead, bud.
Would.
Are you kidding me? The ABC journalist or the sister of Lindsey Graham?
The sister. I actually talked about it a little bit this morning because it's like, that was another part of my theory of is it worse that he's dead? Because now we have this kind of bizarrely, oddly kind of gilfish. I would say personally, maybe there's something wrong with me. I mean, not in a genuine way, but she's for an old lady. She's 61, dude. That's fucking. She looks really good for 61. You gotta be at least
You saw the way all of these weird old, permanent establishment figures are standing around her, staring at her in this strange way. Look at this. Mm-hmm. It's like she's obviously going to be fully compromised and on the take or whatever the permanent establishment would want her to effectively represent and push
and out of her element, out of her element. And I'm sure, I joked, but in all seriousness, whatever shit they had on her brother, they basically have on her, because I know it may sound silly, but whatever blackmail stuff they have on him, that they could just as easily roll out. And it would be, I don't know. Obviously, maybe they'd have to go through some TMZ sort of routes, some sort of, back doors like that. It's not something that would, because it'd be probably too nasty to besmirch someone's name like that in the public sphere. But they could do them like they did, who was old what's her face with the dude with the husband with the titties, Noam. They could do her like Noam or something like that. And it still would besmirch her in the way that it's she's associated with that now. So it's you know, like you just kind of fell in place for this, and she's just also not politically equipped for such a thing. So, but yeah, I don't know. I could see how maybe she could actually be like a more effective political force, but I doubt it. I doubt it. She'll probably just serve out the term, and they'll probably elect somebody else, and she'll probably just vote for whatever the fuck he probably would have voted for anyway in the meantime, and it'll make no real difference her being there or not. It just is bizarre to see like someone's sister just slide in like that. I mean, I've never really thought to look into the process for, you know, someone there, but I assumed it would be something along those lines. Although to some degree, I understand the idea of like bringing in somebody like a sister, because you could end up with like a weird situation like the Plattner thing going on over in Maine, where like he won the primary as like a sort of, you know, vaguely non-establishment type. And then he has all these rape accusations and stuff, and now he's getting, you know, he's out after winning the primary, so they have to kind of last minute throw together. And it was looking like, and they may still, I don't know, it was looking like the DNC over there was going to try to, you know, essentially dictate, you know, some sort of establishment person in his place. We'll see what happens. But point being is like, just the idea of this like the democratic process, and like it would be a little bit shitty. While I think democracy's gay, if say Plattner got out and then somebody who's very much not his belief system fell in, because it would be a stab in the back to the voters or whatever there, I guess, in that way, to whatever regard you honor that, you know. But anyways, so I don't think it's that. So in the sense that like it is honoring, I guess in the democratic sense, it makes sense, the sister filling in. It just seems bizarre that would be just, it's just, oh yeah, just throw a sister in there. Like, man,
I think McMaster basically was quoted saying, Lindsay took care of his little sister and years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And then obviously you have Trump. He made a statement in regard to Nordone being Graham's temporary replacement, and that he legitimately wanted that to be the case. So it looks as if Trump personally was in favor of this move. And then you have what I thought was interesting is Trump on social media talks about the recommendation that he made to McMaster in regard to Lindsey Graham's sister, and that it would be basically a fabulous tribute, is what he said to Graham. So clearly they don't give a shit about the democratic process. So that obviously isn't a factor. But who knows? I mean, I don't know if I suddenly died and I was a Democratic representative, God forbid. I don't know wouldn't you think maybe even the wife would take precedence over the sister? I don't know.
What wife, Austin?
Yeah, no, right. You're right.
You forget who we're talking about here? It only makes sense it would be a sister.
I know.
Wouldn't you think next of kin? That is next of kin, his sister. That is the gayest. Like,
absolutely. That is what's hilarious about Lindsey Graham in the first place, and also the fact that he represented like these conservative. This sort of conservative ideology at a certain level that is at least at face value interpreted by the general public to be that sort of, you know, kind of ideological framework. But the point is, though, I wonder, she doesn't seem to be, you know, fit for the position whatsoever. I mean, she doesn't have any sort of background in government that I can tell. There's a biography that was provided to the governor's office.
Sounds like she's kind of your stereotypical like familial political orbiter. Like she had some stuff it seemed like she did, but it all seemed like stuff that like clearly she got as a function of her proximity to Lindsay, like different nonprofits, stuff like that, you know. Is what it looked like.
South Carolina Commission for the Blind. She was served since 2019 as the commissioner of this commission. And then she worked to allegedly, this is where she worked to expand opportunities for South Carolinians who are blind or have low vision to achieve employment and independence. And that was according to this biography given and provided by the governor's office. So I don't know. She held roles at Clemson University, South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce, South Carolina Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. Okay, so yeah, it just looks like because of who her brother was, she effectively held government positions that, you know, were just, again, unelected. This is the consequence of the bureaucratic establishment, right? This is how the bureaucracy functions. And I think another window into the generational oligarchy, right? Which clearly, I think it has to do with genealogical in regard to this should be no, shock to anyone that it would be his sister that would be, brought in to fulfill his role and replace him for this temporary period. So it makes all the sense in the world, as much as we don't want to, accept it.
And as much as I'd love to dwell on Lindsey Graham's hot sister, I figured we probably should bring it back to what I was trying to talk about initially. Charlie Kirk, you're good. Charlie Kirk. How could we not talk about the ladybugs and how they're no longer around and how it makes us feel sad but glad at the same time? It makes us think about the times we had, But we were talking about Charlie Kirk, and I think maybe one entry point we can jump into. There's been a few different things that have kind of propped up, I think, major elements. I think the biggest one recently that's kind of blown up kind of into this whole, influencer tiff, and I want to get your thoughts because I ended up falling on I guess I kind of jumped on the morning show pretty early on, and so I kind of actually beat to the punch some like influencer drama, and then in a weird turn of fate, it kind of seems like I ended up being on if we are doing the side game, on the unfortunate side, the Tim Pool, the Ben Shapiro side of things. And I go, oh God, this is gross. I don't like this, but hey, this is just where, I guess the truth has led me. And I gotta be real. I haven't even touched base with you. I don't know your thoughts on this, so maybe this will backfire. I've been kind of disappointed, I guess, in the Candace verse or the Candace orbiters. Although this is to be expected, the degree with which they have jumped on the recent. Did you see Ben Shapiro where he's talking about how, he supposedly the claim was that he was getting updates. His security team was getting updates from the security team while they were en route to the hospital, which then most people break that down, and the rough is like somewhere in the realm of just around 10 minutes, give or take. And I thought about this, and this is one of those ones that first, to me, it sounds catchy. You're like, holy shit, that's wild. Now, for one, I would say most likely probably fucking lied. That would be my guess. That would be my, these people, and the example I used was Tim Pool. Tim Pool was initially claiming, after Charlie Kirk got shot, he was saying he had updates that, things are good. So these, and clearly he was not good. He was. This was well after the fact that he should have known. So it's crazy that anybody would feed in this info. It looks like a straight up lie. So I think these people sometimes just lie about shit, especially in moments, and they're like, "Who the fuck's gonna say otherwise?" And I can grift off this and. I mean, hell, how much money do you think Tim Pool literally made off that tweet? Just that one tweet. So, and that's not even to think about all the other effects of all of that. So these influencers, they lie. They exaggerate as well. So it's also, too, you got to think, whenever they say these things, you sometimes have to interpret, is there any way in shape and form that if I squint at my eye, I can find truth here, when they're making these crazy claims. And so with that, if you is saying, my security team was getting updates from their security team, and the specific claim is during that time window, on the way. I could think he was probably lying or maybe stretching the definition of what on the way means, or even just, like I said, a flagrant lie. But also, even if we were to accept it to be as truth, a lot of people were saying, okay, well, then that's ridiculous. You're telling me the security team is contacting other security teams while they're supposed to be taking him en route to the hospital, providing first aid, yada, yada, yada. And then I think about it and we're like, well, okay, then how large is a security team? We're talking about somebody who literally has staff. And I looked it up, and there were 13 people for that. And then you're like, well, how many people does it take to do first aid? And I know that's a whole other separate question of whether they're even really doing quality first aid, but whatever, let's assume they are. I mean, how many people does it take to do first aid, get them in the car, maybe move the car in place, transfer, do all the things for immediate, first aid, on the ground stuff? What, maybe 6 people? That leaves still over half the team available for doing other stuff. And you really do not want too many Indian or too many chefs in the kitchen with something like this. You don't want everybody well trained, what they got to do. And then other people should be thinking forward. What's the next thing? And honestly, I think it would be pretty high in the list for you to start contacting other people. And if I were to create a quick top 10 list, if Charlie Kirk gets shot in the fucking head, who are my top 10 guesses? I have no idea what the fuck happened. Who are my top 10, just guesses of other possible targets if there were to be a multiple thing? Ben Shapiro's top 5 fucking easy in that situation because they are in that same exact like milieu of like influencers. And then you add into it like, okay, what kind of small business world are we talking about with security teams that handle these sort of events? It makes it even the more like, to me, all the more plausible. Now, would I be astounded if Ben Shapiro was getting live updates from the Mossad and he was planning it, and him and Josh Hammer, where Josh Hammer was actually the blurry pixel we see on the roof or whatever? No, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. But at the same time, I also just have to follow where kind of truth leads me and try to be rational throughout it. And I just find it ridiculous. Like Candace, she was the one who kind of set this off. She went like hard in the paint and was like, don't get me wrong, I think Shapiro is satanic and all the crazy things, but it was this, I knew it. Just like, I don't even know if she straight up said it, but like this little rat, essentially heavily implying he's somehow involved. And if not straight up saying it, she basically was straight up saying it. And this just turned into this whole, this became this big fight between Clint Russell and Tim Pool, which in this rare situation, I'm actually kind of somewhat on Tim's side in this. Although I do think he did probably fucking lie about that, or he was lied to about his claim about Charlie Kirk being, secure in a good condition or whatever. I'm still a little salty about that because that's actually the cue that led me to make my joke that got me a bunch of death threats and stuff because I thought he was in better condition than he was. I mean, I don't regret it. I'm not apologizing for a joke, but I'm just saying, like, I would have had a different internal calculation had I not had that. Had I not had Tim Pool that said, "Oh, I've got inside word that he's good." Right. But anyways, Austin, what are your thoughts? There's other things I want to pick your head on. All the influencers saying they saw him shooting now, stuff like that. We definitely going to talk about that. But particularly, I guess, just specifically that. I want to see, I'm curious how your mind was thinking through all that. Where you're in the same place as me, I just feel like everyone's going way over their skis when they don't need to. There's no real reason to. You can say that's weird, but this idea to, have this, whole other, whatever the fuck this is, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Man, it feels to me like a distractionary tactic on both ends of this debate, in a real way. Not to say that it's not important in details in terms of the details needing to be ironed out, right? Obviously, we need a better picture of exactly what took place, right? The movements of the day. But at the same time, I'm more frustrated with the level that people seem to be bogging themselves down, and it feels like a kind of deliberate decision that is being evoked by these specific personalities, right? Who I think are influencers that fit the bill of compromised assets that hope to push us further into this dystopian landscape in terms of our ability to even have objective debates and come to a conclusion that makes sense in terms of a sort of high impact event, an emotion arousing violent false flag, which we talk about so often. And so I think that and it's easy for me to oversimplify things because of so much research in the past that we've kind of engaged in regard to a lot of different high profile assassinations, where you see this level of pattern recognition that's impossible to deny. And the fact of the matter is that in regard to how long did it take to actually, get Charlie to medical attention that he needed at the time, it's for me personally, I think that's an important conversation to be had. But at the very same time, I think that this is, honestly, it forces you to position yourself on one side or the other of what is a nonsensical debate, in my opinion. Not to say that it's not important and vital to know what allegedly did take place as far as the, abrupt aftermath and the consequential movements of how Charlie was rushed to receive this medical attention. But again, it's the level of detail in regard to Ben Shapiro's security team, which I do think that, this definitely applies in regard to Ben Shapiro. I think knowing the fact that Mossad was more than likely involved in this targeted assassination, if you consider all of the just honestly, in regard to what it seems like at face value with the most important aspects of what we know in regard to Charlie leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination, he was somewhat taking a different stance, at the very least, in regard to his position on Israel. And as much as, it's hard to come to a confident conclusion as to what exactly is that the primary reason that there was a green light go, opportunity on UVU campus that day. It's hard for me to think that there wasn't far more factoring in regard to that ultimate decision being made, because I do think that this was a targeted assassination, and that if you consider the kind of emotional reaction to what was kind of, it very much escalated, in regard to the emotional state of the average person in the general public. It definitely, I think it resonated within to the point to where even my own family members, who are very much kind of like surface level, not very much tapped into the political parapolitics environment or sphere of influence or whatever you want to say, right? It's just interesting to me how much this did effectively kind of represent one of those watershed moments, right, in modern history, in a way that you can point to. Now, it didn't have the consequential nature and the fallout of a JFK assassination, but at the same time, it's like it's just difficult for me, to kind of look at all of the details that we are aware of in regard to the assassination, the strange personalities on the ground who are drawing attention away in terms of the crowd itself, while the assassination gets the green light. It's like it's impossible for me to even imagine this wasn't a case where Tyler Robinson, which at every level seems to me to be some sort of mind-controlled Manchurian Patsy to some extent, who's just going through the motions, being properly positioned at the perfect, right, in regard to the perfect timing. It's just, again, man, you have the layer of propaganda attached to the event, right, where you have him at the Dairy Queen or whatever it is in front of the Superman poster, and you have the White House account tweeting about the Superman, Trump being Superman, basically. And this is all happening around the same time. And you see the same people, right, the influencers that had the Epstein binders, that were allowed to even go and act as if they were the faces of the government transparency and Epstein disclosure. And they're the exact same people who are now coming forward publicly and trying to act as if this preliminary hearing provided us with concrete evidence of any kind that would convince anyone that Tyler Robinson acted alone and fired the shot from the top of that building, right, and assassinated Charlie Kirk. It's one of those. It's like, it's hard for me to really give my opinion on that specific debate, because I don't even think it really matters in terms of what effectively ultimately took place. And so this is what I think Candace Owens represents. She's sort of, I think at the very least, and Tim Pool, I mean, Chatham House rules. How many times do we have to discuss this? This is just kind of like an extension of, right, the influencer industrial complex, and how I think they will attempt to, for one, they want to dismiss your credibility by just the concept alone being essentially, if Candace Owens becomes the face of an idea, of a concept, then it undermines the credibility of that concept inherently within the minds of a vast majority of the general public. And I think that is a tool that is extraordinarily valuable at this moment, and they will not cease to exhaust, right, every last opportunity in regard to how that manifests itself in terms of the influence operation at hand. So it's difficult for me. I see these people setting the table. They decide for us what we will engage in socially, in debate, in whatever the hell it is, in terms of bogging us down over this kind of nonsensical debate that will only lead us I think, effectively nowhere in regard to actually coming to a conclusion worthwhile in terms of the operation overall and, the overall scope in reality. So I don't know.
But Austin, we have him on tape. You didn't see that? We have him on tape shooting the gun. We have him on firing at Charlie Kirk. Have you seen that? Have you heard the claims? Jack Posobiec, he said he saw the shot. Apparently, he's able to somehow ascertain incredible amounts of information from just a few pixels. It's quite impressive, really. But apparently, the video of him taking the shot has. And now I do want to say, in a certain sense, I do gotta say, from the just a big picture, you gotta say, like, just kind of vibe based, analysis of this. You're like, I'm kind of like, whoa, holy shit, they got this whole video. They got the whole video. I don't know if you've seen it, Austin, but that one video we saw of him running that roof, and I've said for a while, like, why don't we see anything before that? Well, we've now seen before that. There is before that. There's other, and apparently I think it like pans out too, where you can see a wider thing. There's more of it. Although I believe what many people are referring to as a supposed shot is this ever so tiny little pixel. But I will say, from big picture, you're like, oh shit, so there is more of this video. Remember, you may recall, Austin, we spent probably, not me and you, but generally, us, speaking in the royal, we spent, plenty of time digging through, like, looking at pixels of grainy videos, like, is that a gun in his hand? Is that a towel? Him jumping off. So we got all bogged down into the minutia of these videos, and everyone's like, well, why? Well, why can't we see before this? Why can't we see before this? Surely there'd be more damning info here, but that's all we saw. And so this kind of gave this idea of like, well, that's weird, that's bizarre, and it's almost became this like, well, if there's more, that'll be damning. Like, that'll really, as if that, revealed more. Now, I always kind of said that, like, if there should be more, that doesn't necessarily mean, and from there, then we'll evaluate more. And so there is more. There is, time that precedes that, like, as everyone claimed. But although it is really, really hard to make out. Now, as I'm kind of driving at here, I think what I'm trying to say is, like, it's almost like a little bit of a magic trick occurred there. By us investing this time and effort in analyzing it that first time and putting such importance on that video, this appearance of now there being a larger video and being more angle, it puts more importance on it, I think. It makes us more be like, oh shit, so there is the video, oh fuck. But you're like, wait, but what does this video even show? The whole point of even that video from the first place is we were arguing over whether we could make out there was a gun. That was the whole big thing, them jumping off the roof. You're like, and funny enough, by the way, initially, to add to my whole point of like us being like, what is that? Apparently, the initial video was blurrier. I have no idea why now we somehow have a magically cleaned up version. But initial one that we were all looking at was more, it's pretty clear. He clearly, it almost certainly was a gun that came off of that roof now. But initially, it was so blurry that it was pretty plausible to be able to argue one way or the other. It was really hard to tell. But either way, it got us all bogged down into the minutia of that. But either then, the whole point is you couldn't even make out, even in the most, like, even the best view of him, like, literally, like, dropping off the roof as close as you can to the camera. Nothing about that is distinguishable as being Tyler Robinson or really anybody. I mean, we could probably bring up the video, but you probably could barely even make out the dude's fucking shoes.
That's exactly is and beyond that, it's Jack Posobiec, it's Benny Johnson, it's these usual suspects that we talked about earlier, and it's beyond that, it's even more. It's the FedBots, phenomenon in a way, trying to convince us that the evidence provided during the week-long preliminary hearing that felt as if it was just another a show trial for a Patsy. Right. It was as if it proved anything other than Tyler Robinson being some sort of mind-controlled Manchurian Patsy is what it looked like to me, as far as the movements that he personally, I don't even know if that was him. Like, honestly, they keep trying to tell me, and proclaim that this is actually Tyler Robinson, but and this includes the Epstein binders, the suspects like the Benny Johnsons and the Jack Posobiecs, and well, at the very least, Benny Johnson came out and claimed that he was there with Donald Trump Jr. at the Charlie Kirk pretrial or preliminary hearing, and and that they were like going on the record trying to act as if they had information that wasn't even made public yet, right? But this is fully convincing and will only convince the public even further that it was Tyler Robinson and he acted alone in this way. But you know, and that same quotation and phrase, you can see him take the shot, that was being recycled and mentioned and parroted over and over again, as if they were trying to control the interpretation or the influence, you know, at the very least, control the outcome in terms of this influence operation. And so I see, you know, you can see him take the shot from Jack Posobiec and people like this, and then have individuals out here providing the video, and even going so far as to say that, you know, if it was like as if this was, you know, confirmation, right? That the shot was legitimately taken, and it wasn't, you know, they even went so far as to, like, basically, I saw so many different accounts claiming that, you know, they're basically insulting your intelligence if you believe that, right, this video isn't proof that Tyler Robinson was the individual who acted alone. And so I don't know, you just, again, it shows all the hallmarks of the criminal cases in the past, that you have that very same kind of phenomena of parroting this propaganda that will effectively become the mainstream official narrative. And yeah, it's another frustrating point that we can obviously grant the spotlight to. And if you see, I think none of that footage proves that Tyler Robinson took the shot. I mean, you legitimately, yeah, it's the amount of people engaging in this sort of psy-slop or fed slop or whatever you want to call it, right? Where they're basically saying that this is proof that the state has provided us with evidence.
Did you just say psy-slop?
Yeah.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I heard it once before when I was on the Divulgence podcast, I think it was.
Sorry,
and
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. That was so revolutionary of branding to me that I had to cut you off real quick.
I made them repeat it as well, because I was like, well, did you just say psy-slop? I said the exact same thing. And so, yeah, I did effectively kind of parrot that phrase because I thought it was perfect. But it is really what it seems to be, is this sophisticated psychological operation in a real way. If you again, it takes pattern recognition, it takes exposure to previous cases, to prior evidence, to where you begin to realize how they kind of facilitate this level of influence, this level of psychological manipulation. And so I think that when you see Donald Trump Jr. coming out and doing his part, right? I saw
real quick. I don't want to. I gotta back up real quick. And I think you kind of nailed it right there. I don't know if you meant what you were getting at, but all this whole, especially for the Robbins, this like Kirk thing all together, I think a good way of like kind of breaking down the dialectic of what's occurring here is Fed slop versus Psy slop.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So those are the two sides. You got the Fed slop on one side, you know, the Posobics, you know, you got the, you know, all those different characters, and then you got the Psy slop on the other side. So it totally works. Sorry, go on.
It does. And I thought, I think it was like early last week, it was Donald Trump Jr. came out and was discussing how Tyler Robinson was seen on Utah Valley campus like 4 separate times, right, between September 10th and the 11th, right, in like the early hours, so sort of thing. And this was when they're presenting this as like damning, condemning information that's providing us with evidence that Tyler Robinson was casing right, the assassination location. And but then again, we mentioned, I think it was at the end of last week's episode, that there were allegations of this car being spotted on a Ring camera nearby, right? I think it was like a Challenger or something, Dodge Challenger or something. And you basically have, it was parked near a home in the early hours of September 11th and was driven by a bald man with 3 other people in the car. And it was basically saying that Tyler Robinson arrived at 8:30 a.m. on the 10th, walked on the quad area of UVU campus, and then made contacts with TPUSA reps. And so the fact that he had even like engaged with Turning Point representatives early the day prior and again, this is like all being presented throughout the preliminary hearing, right? As if this is exactly what took place. And so in regard to like agents making statements on the stand during the questioning process, talking about how, for one, Tyler Robinson's defense, basically, there were witnesses, right, who turned over that ring camera footage. And I thought it was interesting as hell because it seems as if, and how many times have we seen this before, right? It's like, how many people were in the Ryder truck, Jose? Right? It's like, I mean, my God, do we really have to imagine a world where Tyler Robinson was meeting, let's just say he was a patsy. He was a mind-controlled Manchurian in a modern Manchurian candidate program. I'm just saying, you don't have to ride with me on this thought experiment, but I feel like this is far more, just plausible in regard to an official narrative than what we're supposed to embrace and believe as having taken place. And so to me, it felt like, okay, you position the patsy, right? That's the ultimate goal of how you facilitate an operation such as this. So I've seen it, remember, with the CIA operative and Elaine Neal, who's in the polka dot dress with Sirhan in the Ambassador Hotel pantry. Now, how did they get Sirhan up to that location? They walked him out and they took him out the what's it called? The fire escape, right? So they take him out one of the fire escapes and they basically walk him up to the floor above, which is where the pantry basically is where they could kind of usher him through strategically without being seen. There was one woman who did witness Elaine Neal, the woman in the polka dot dress, and a man who I believe was CIA operative.
I think she went on CBS like right after. So that was one of the big things why it's so notable is before they got a chance to like clean up any sort of that detail. I think there was even a cop that made a point after they made some comment like, "Oh, you think it's smart, saying something, so early or whatever." But either way, I think it works out well. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't know about the lady in the polka dot dress.
Exactly. And I think that's it's fascinating to me because again, it was basically you had Sandra Serrano, that was her name. You're right. And she had come out and she detailed eyewitness account of in her statement, said it was a very hot night, I believe, and that she'd stepped out onto the external staircase and that basically this is around like 11:30 at night, PM to get some air. And then like within a 5-minute period, she saw one woman and 2 young men, I believe it was, who were walking up the stairs toward her. And she even noticed that one of the men that she assumed was Sirhan because he needed a haircut, and this was the way in which she identified him. The other man was in a gold sweater, and the woman was wearing a white dress with black polka dots, right? And so obviously even in the what was it? I'm forgetting the name of the individual who ran that experiment to prove that RFK or that Sirhan was a Manchurian. Darren Brown.
Esterosa? Oh, sorry.
No, Darren Brown was the name of this. Basically, he performed this kind of hypnotic experience. He's a hypnotist, and he basically performed on stage, and he hypnotized an individual who he then would effectively prove was vulnerable enough and psychologically vulnerable enough that he could kind of lead him through and lure him into this Manchurian candidate opportunistic window where he basically, if you remember, it's like a famous celebrity that he assassinates on stage, I think at one point. And it's interesting. Hold on. I actually have it. I pulled it in my because it was something I thought we might want to react to whenever I went to Vegas and talked to Jake.
Which, by the way, there's a new episode of that dropped. I don't know, at least one more. I don't know. I think you have probably about 2 more that'll be dropping after that. But I saw there was a new one that dropped over the weekend. So if you guys want more Austin Jake Shields content, there it is. Real quick, I guess while you're looking for some Austin, we do have one super chat. And then I guess after that, we should probably go take a little bit of a breaky poo. But we have Rev Paradise here, $10. Appreciate the support. It says Fatal Justice and Chaos. Actually, I don't think I've heard of Fatal Justice before.
Oh, that's the book for Dr. Jeffrey McDonald and the 4 Bragg murders.
Okay. Are great books, but both glossed over the cult Stockley and Manson said they were a part of. Can you explain McDonald and process? Is there a book on this? God bless you guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if you know about this motherfucker here to my right, but he released what one could call, I guess, a documentary of sorts episode. I think that was your 5-hour long episode or something nuts.
It was over 4 hours for
sure.
sure.
It was nuts. So yeah, there's a whole Austin's gone way too deep on that. So go check that out. If you remember, I don't know if you remember the title of the episode, Austin.
I called it Fatal Justice, the 4 Bragg murders.
Fatal Justice.
Yeah.
So it works out perfectly. Okay, well, he said, is there a book on this? So, and he says, can you explain it, Austin? Pull yourself in, just quick, like back of the book, not even back of the book, like someone like 1 or 2 paragraphs, just the bullet points of what happened here. And then book recommendation on where to look at if there's anything other than Fatal Justice. And I guess I know Chaos. I did remember it went a little bit into that. Maybe it's in Kinzinger? Was it in Poisoner in Chief as well? I could see it being in that book, but I don't know if they would have really gone too in depth. But Austin, you'd know this question far better than I would for sure.
Well, I think that really. It's far more important for people to, and again, yes, please do go and listen to and engage with the episode that I covered the Fort Bragg murders on, and it's basically I called it Fatal Justice in regard to the actual book on Dr. Jeffrey McDonald, and I do think that, once again, Ted Gunderson plays a vital role in this case. I think it's very interesting in regard to the role that he does play. But there was an individual by the name of Helena Stokely, who I think provides us with this sort of occult connection and the occult framework, the very same sort of context that was provided within the scope of the Atlanta child murders. And it's fascinating because if you remember, I feel like it almost manifested itself and surfaced in a very identical way in regard to both of those cases, and clearly separate cases, but the Process Church of the Final Judgment would play a vital role within both criminal cases, which again is of course, why wouldn't it? But I believe Helena Stokely, who allegedly died of pneumonia and cirrhosis of the liver, but she was found dead, and I think that it was a sort of an arranged death, to say the very least. I mean, she had been threatened many times. They had threatened to even target her child at one point for blowing the whistle and exposing the overall scope of the cult connections to Fort Bragg, and also just facilitating a domestic drug trafficking enterprise that even fell under the context of, and this is all being facilitated through these military bases, including Fort Bragg. And so the notion is that you have a local chapter of the Process Church of the Final Judgment who are brought in to help effectively distribute the drugs that were being flown in, which was a massive scandal that surfaced at the time in regard to basically what was called the cadaver connection. And they were flying in heroin and from if you remember, it was basically this massive drug trafficking enterprise that they were exploiting at the time, and they were essentially through, I believe it was not only the military bases that they were facilitating a lot of the drug trafficking through, but they would kind of export the distribution process to these local occult chapters, like the Process Church and things of that nature, which would help facilitate it to, in the general local area, but also they would have drug trafficking enterprises where you would have members of the cults who would be engaged in Grand Theft Auto, and basically they would steal vehicles and then line the vehicles with drugs and then help traffic the vehicles into at least domestically throughout the U.S., crossing state lines, things of that nature on behalf of the enterprise to various other geographical locations where they had a hub or a hotspot where they were overly represented. But if you see, there's like, and obviously you have January 13th, I believe, was it's identified as, and this is when, again, if you're considering Helena Stokely and her role as a member of the cult that was connected to the cadaver connection in Fort Bragg and the drug distribution process, you have so much more. Prince Beasley came out. He was he was basically the Helena Stokely was his criminal informant, and Prince Beasley was a local Fayetteville, North Carolina police detective who was involved in the investigation in regard to Dr. Jeffrey McDonald's family, obviously his family's deaths, which were ultimately, considered to be murders by Dr. Jeffrey McDonald himself, which in reality, I believe he had become willing to blow the whistle on the drug connection to Fort Bragg, because they even described him as the golden boy. And I think Helena Stokely told Prince Beasley, the detective, that she was prepared basically at one point to finally tell the whole story about the McDonald murders without demanding entire immunity, right, for herself. And she wanted to blow the lid off of Fort Bragg. And I think it was Gunderson called Prince Beasley and urged him to get down to Helena Stokely's place and they basically, there are a lot of different videos of them interrogating her, basically, right? They're interviewing her and they're taking her statements. And it's fascinating because she goes on the record and Ted Gunderson is fully convinced, and obviously he glows like the sun, but at the same time, it's like there are things that I very much have appreciated that he is fundamentally exposed to me. So it's one of those strange kind of double-edged swords. But
so real quick, Austin, so just to recap, just back up. So the question was bullet point breakdown of what happened here, and what you have another book recommendation aside from Fatal Justice. Just a reminder.
All right. It was a fertility death ritual, I believe, and it was an initiatory ceremony that was being conducted by the members of this local cult group. And you have multiple, you have many different witnesses who were neighbors of the McDonald family, who went on the record claiming they even saw, and you had foreign candle wax from outside the home that was brought in. I believe it was through the actual occult practice of the fertility death ritual. They had, it was not long at all after the Manson murders had just happened. So obviously this is very much, in the forefront of the minds of the general public at the time. And you had very similar writings in blood on the walls, death to pigs, basically, things of that nature, which seemingly were almost like a copycat crime in a way to make it seem as if, the Manson murders were an extension to Fort Bragg at this point, which in a real way, I believe they were, because effectively the Process Church is connected to Charles Manson as well. And if you remember, they had introduced him to their philosophy when during his time at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic in the local chapter off Cole Street that was preaching this philosophy to him. So, and he would then obviously utilize this moving forward in regard to, anyway. Yes. So
anyway said a lot. Real quick, Austin, is there any other reading recommendations aside from Fatal Justice?
Okay, so I'm telling you, it's Fatal Vision was the book that was basically, I believe, kind of like the Helter Skelter version of this is the packaged form of what the official narrative and the establishment want you to believe in regard to the murders and how they played out. And Fatal Justice, I believe, was a counteraction. It was a reaction and a counter to what I believe to have been the false narrative that was presented to hinge and pin the entire crime on Jeffrey McDonald personally. And there's a lot of people who still do push back frequently on the fact that Jeffrey isn't entirely guilty and things of that nature, which I find to be interesting, that people still kind of vehemently overly emotionally react to that specific episode. But I do think it's very important to go and kind of overexpose yourself to this case. Helena Stokely, she's the connection worthwhile and exhausting in every way. And I think that once you begin to realize that, Prince Beasley, and just, I should say this one before I forget, right? What Ted Gunderson did say, and I do effectively agree with him on this statement, and that is that he was convinced that Helena Stokely was basically ultimately silenced, through an untraceable assassination technique, right? Which was only known to government intelligence agencies at the time, and according to Ted Gunderson. But a Satanist CIA insider, right, interviewed by Ted Gunderson, identified January 13th as an important date for Satanists, and they consider January 13th the Satanic New Year, as January 13th is considered to basically be the 13th day of the 13th month. And so the number 13 is an important satanic number, and is used repeatedly in satanic groups. And basically you have these covens who are always, that many different covens are composed of like 13 full-fledged members. That includes Helena Stokely's coven in Fayetteville, North Carolina during the Fort Bragg murders. And on the night of the McDonald killings, you have Jeffrey McDonald, only aware of the presence of 3 males and 1 female in his living room, where he's assaulted, left unconscious. He had been stabbed to such an extent he couldn't even breathe. His lungs had collapsed. Like, it's incredible to imagine doing that to yourself. But, people have legitimately ran with that concept and that narrative that this was his reaction in a way to make it seem as if he wasn't capable of doing it. And the only way to cover his tracks was to effectively harm himself to the point to where he almost killed himself, and beat himself to such an extent to where it seemed like, 3 strangers had basically invaded his home and murdered his children and his wife, and in a fertility death ritual and an initiatory ceremony. And so in white robes, chanting all the while they're on acid. And Helena, she goes on the record with Prince Beasley saying all of this, which is so in such a detailed way that it's undeniable to me, as if this wasn't exactly what transpired the night of the Jeffrey McDonald murders, at least the murder of his family. And so anyway, it was Prince Beasley. Other sources told Ted, and Ted believes this as well, that the cult members involved, you had a cult leader named Francis Winterbourne, right, who was nicknamed the Wizard, and the Wizard with 2 Z's. You had a few different individuals. I won't name them all, but it's very important to again expose yourself to all of this. So once more, Wizard was basically a known member of the Process Church of the Final Judgment. Again, his name was Francis Winterbourne. And you have members of the cult who had been responsible for distributing drugs up and down the East Coast from New York to Miami through what became known as I mentioned, the Cadaver Connection. Yeah, it wasn't just Gunderson. Again, it's Prince Beasley. He was just basically discussing this case with an investigator that was a detective in the Fayetteville, North Carolina Police Department. And this was all during the time of the Fort Bragg murders case, where Helena Stokely was this criminal informant. And so, yeah, it's important once again to realize the level of which, and again, this represents or presents itself in Atlanta as well with the Atlanta child murders. And if you remember, you have the same thing happening from Miami distribution to Atlanta in Georgia, and you had this exact same framework and basically this structure in place in regard to the occult network being involved as a drug distribution arm, not only limited to drug distribution, but definitely, a fundamental arm of the overall enterprise in itself, and how the intelligence apparatus was basically utilizing these factions and these subgroups and these organizations for their own benefit, for plausible deniability purposes as well, while also kind of almost implicating by design many of these criminal cases to have this occult framework involved in the basically the detailed levels of the evidentiary process, which would only, I think, ultimately lend at least a service to the cover-up in regard to kind of tying in the more extraordinary allegations to these cases as well, which would then ultimately, I think, lead the vast majority of people to kind of almost inherently dismiss many of these evidentiary details almost at face value because it seems so extraordinary in itself. But I could talk about Fort Bragg murders for forever. I'm sorry. I know
You're good.
I think it really deserves so much more detail. So obviously, again, I do urge you and definitely
Fatal Vision.
Yeah,
That
Fatal
was-
Vision.
Fatal Vision.
I think
So-
Fatal Justice is Fatal Justice and Fatal Vision are the two books, but obviously one is a counter to the official narrative, which tried to pin the entire case on Dr. Jeffrey McDonald as a man who was just a psychopathic murderer who murdered his two daughters and his unborn child and pregnant wife, right? Obviously, and in regard to the just official narrative, that is what we're meant to believe, right? Is that Dr. Jeffrey McDonald is solely responsible for this case and those horrific murders of his own family. But understanding the details and even the original reporting from Fayetteville, North Carolina at the time, I mean, it's fascinating. Basically, I think the original news report that came out was basically about a ritualistic hippie cult, right? Yeah, this was the actual February 17th, 1970 edition of the Fayetteville Observer. Journalist Pat Reese provides the first account of the Fort Bragg murder case. And it says, an Army doctor's wife and their two young children were stabbed to death in their Fort Bragg home early today, apparently murder victims of a ritualistic hippie cult. And I think there were so many more, publications that kind of ran with similar reports before, the official narrative kind of, just fully entrenched itself and took the day. But anyway.
But with that, let's take a moment, take a breather. We can all take it. Go get a drink, go to the bathroom, grab some food, whatever you got to do. We got a fun little video to watch, a little intermission, and then we'll be back. Sorry we didn't have the phone lines open today. We were dealing with some logistical issues in the back that you guys didn't see. I don't know if we'll even bother turning the phone lines at this point, but sorry. But hey, the patrons can call in. We'll be hanging out with the patrons here in a little bit. So hey, if you don't like that, I'm sorry. You can always chip in your $2 or $3 and come on. And as a video call, you can also turn off your camera, so you can treat it all the same as a normal call-in if you don't want to show your face. So just letting you know that is an option if you ever want to get through the phone lines. But we do try to keep the phone lines open for you guys every week when it works. But sorry, it's a balancing act, logistically speaking. We're on a shoestring budget here. But with that, let's go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage, Jacob.
it. Move on. And you kill whoever gets in your way. This is us. If we were unarmed, we would chew their necks off. We can claw their eyes out. You know it. Anybody that has ever gone against us, or anybody that would ever step in front of us, will be taken care of.
Including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski. In all my years, I have never seen anything like this before.
One of the first questions they'll ask is, what do you do? And so I say, I live. And they say, no, I mean, do you work or what? And I say, live. And they say, well, you must do something, because their whole orientation for job, occupation, this is their whole life. Money.
And we are back. Let's go get Beans up in this motherfucker. Beans, you're on with Austin and Jose. This is one of our beautiful patrons. Beans, looks like it's gonna be a Beans and a Rage kind of night. But what's up, Beans? How you doing? What do you got for us tonight?
Good, fellas. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
First of all, awesome. Appreciate you going above and beyond as always. Very sweet of you. Good man.
Thanks,
no, dude. So I don't even know where to start. So I guess I'll start first and foremost with the Charlie Kirk stuff, if you don't mind. It's really quick, but it was more of like where I've been having a problem with it is, automatically off rip, Jose, to your point, like Jack Posobiec's talking about, we have a video of Tyler Robinson firing a weapon. Prosecutor's wet dream, dude. Why does anybody have immunity in the case? Clear that one out real quick. It doesn't make any sense. How is no one else involved if that is the case? Why did the cop on the roof have his GoPro die when he found the screwdriver? Why is there no ambulance on the scene at the time at a very small school with a gathering that large? Why is the gun not found for hours but found immediately when the FBI shows up? All very weird. Just raising questions, not coming to a conclusion or anything. My biggest problem really is more like you have Tyler Robinson, and I get it. If he's guilty, cool. Like if he pulled the trigger, if he was even a part of a conspiracy of any kind, great. It feels like there's way more layers, and it feels like this is all being pawned onto us and being like shut down quickly. And the only reason why I say it this way is because Austin, I appreciate you bringing up like, RFK towards the end there, where it's kind of a similar situation. It's like there's so many different things going on that why are we only getting like a limited hangout of the situation? I get that there could be justice being served, but why is it only justice when we get one person? Right. There's so many different elements to this. And Clint, Jose, I know you were talking about Clint. Clint went on to Julian Dory's podcast and talked to whatever his name was, death expert, whatever the fuck. And he asked him a couple of questions, but it was the same thing. It was kind of like, look, man, I talk to a lot of people that they want black and white, and I'm like, no, it's very gray. Like, there's George Zinn. There's apparently somebody creeping around at a hospital. There's apparently like 12 cell phones that were connected to Israel. Weird. Apparently now Ben Shapiro is saying that he was in contact with the security detail when there's that short, limited amount of time where they were in the car. Weird. Why is nobody being questioned? Why is anybody getting immunity? It's just bizarre. And then also, to that point, you know, this is a major figure, but there's also other people, like you were talking about Ted Gunderson, not to bring up Gary Caradori, but this happens on such a minor scale, and people don't know about the minors. Like, we're talking about the major leagues right now, you know, but like, we're not on the minor level either, where like, this is all a massive thing top down, so you don't understand the moderate level of things, if that makes sense. Yeah, I've been talking for a while, so I'll let you chime in. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. You're just kind of laying it. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, I agree with you. A lot of suspicious shit. A lot of weird stuff. I mean, some stuff I think like once you dig through, it becomes less weird as you dig through it. Although there is definitely plenty of weird to go around in this case. I find myself kind of sitting alone when it comes to, I don't know, my stream of logic. Typically, when it comes to the whole Tyler Robinson, Although I haven't been digging too much into it, you know, I've kind of gotten Candace fatigue, as I said last week. But throughout all of it, it was kind of like, you know, both sides, I say, kind of have left me frazzled, because it'd just be like retardation from both sides in their own distinct ways. And it's just like, I just stop caring. Just like, I don't know. I just like, I don't really care. And especially where it's like we weren't even near a trial yet. I guess it makes sense to kind of reinvigorate care now, but I mean, yeah, I definitely think something's weird. I lean towards perhaps I very much doubt a lone wolf thing. Now, sure, is it possible? Trust me, I cover all the 764 you know, sort of stuff out there. So I totally get, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, bring up that like it's not that crazy, some tranny is shooting up, you know, somewhere, like killing somebody. Like, this is, you know, trans violence is super common, but it's kind of different. I mean, we haven't seen anything. If you follow, you know, those trans violence, they're usually typically like accelerationist connected. They're typically like, you know, kind of like doomer nihilist stuff. You don't see. Well, I know what I'm saying. I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see that at all. I haven't seen. I know where there were those like early things. I mean, maybe we will see it. I'm leaving open room for that, but like, I haven't seen it yet. I know there was that Turkey Tom
Lance Twiggs has to be an asset, right?
Yeah, but you remember that Turkey Tom? Do you remember
Why
that
does
Turkey
he
Tom?
have immunity? I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad, was that?
Do you remember that Turkey Tom thing though, where they were claiming that like there was that weird journal and like the weird drawings and stuff, and apparently they were getting really into like drugs and like getting really weird. And now there was something that kind of made it seem like something about that whole situation glowed, and it seemed very much like, I remember digging into the time, and it seemed to be very much held up on lots of trust me bros. Now, if that does end up, you know, bearing some fruit later, there actually might be some weird Satanism 764 sort of angles, and who knows, maybe it actually could be a sort of quote unquote lone wolf. But even then, it gets more complicated. It's not really a lone wolf, since this is like kind of pretty when you get into the like the 09A 764 stuff, it's kind of like in a certain way, like almost like a decentralized like Fed thing. Like, sure, organic degeneracy does happen there, you know, acceleration of chaos, but there is also, I think, the ability for certain actors to reach in and touch things and push things in their favor one way or the other, which we do see some of these, you know, out of sorts characters doing things, you know, like the Crooks of the world, you know, the Robinsons of the world. So maybe there'll be something there, and maybe there is something, this angle of some trans Tifa, whatever the fuck, sort of, as they've alluded to. But right now, I very much put skepticism on that. And even then, if we do get that, it still makes me wonder, okay, even still, there's still more questions to be had there. So it doesn't really become this nice, neatly wrapped bow that the like herder conservatives would probably like here.
So to your point, and First of all, I appreciate you bringing up the 09A. Great series by William Ramsey's, phenomenal. But the other thing that I really have a problem with is you brought up the Thomas Matthew Crooks, where I'm like, that's another one where what the fuck happened there? Like, it harkens me back to Austin bringing up the Bobby Kennedy murder, where you're like, we can never really trust the government for anything that they say at their word ever again, post circa 1963, to be completely honest. Probably before then, but like that's like the definitive moment. And then you dive into all of these other things that have happened, which brings me back to, you know, my Gary Caradori comment earlier, where I'm like, I can't trust anything that you say, and then you throw something at me that is so obviously I don't know, is it a tug at like making sure that your prosecution rate is really solid, or is it just like a hey, we're gonna wrap this thing in a bow and make sure that nobody ever knows? Is it a false flag? Is it like, I have no idea, and it bothers me because like my father's an attorney, you know, and like I talked to him about it, and he's like, oh, you got to see this hearing, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, dude, what about all these other anomalies in this case? Like, all it took was 6 months for you to just forget that. Like, it's crazy to me. I can sit here and remember every single thing from the time that it happened that bothers me, but you have this propaganda arm that's just hanging over the majority of people that is pushing all of these constant narratives of whether it's just Tyler Robinson or he's the one that pulled the trigger. Again, like back to my main point, like if you have a video of him pulling the trigger, I understand that you wouldn't release it yet, but why is anybody getting immunity? That's a close cut shit. Like
you're talking about the Lance Twiggs stuff, right? You've brought that up a few times. I think you're talking about Lance Twiggs immunity. Is that what you're talking about?
Lance Twiggs immunity, supposedly. But apparently other people have gotten immunity in the case, but Lance Twiggs,
I didn't know that.
Yes. And I'm confused by it. There's several things in this case that just confuse me.
It screams to me that he's an asset. Like that's all that, and especially considering the neighbors going on the record that lived near the home where Lance Twiggs and Tyler Robinson were allegedly fraternizing leading up to the event, right? Like the assassination, where they talk about basically you have those neighbors going on the record claiming they had seen, right, like strange vehicles showing up at the actual property leading up to the event. Mm-hmm. And so again, it just seemed as if what they were describing were like unmarked black SUVs, right? Which is again, it screams operatives are showing up at the assets house. That's what it screams. And so for anyone to just kind of like overlook that detail, you know, and not, to me, that's more of a pivotal detail worth recognizing and being aware of than that entire Ben Shapiro debate, you know, which I understand and I think is very important and again, worthwhile in granting your attention for at least a brief moment in time. But you see the point that I'm making, though, is it almost kind of like, go ahead. Sorry, I'm not trying to.
No. I was saying, of course, I see the point that you're making. Go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off, Austin.
Oh, you're good, buddy. It's a struggle because I kind of feel like maybe and again, this is my bias, right? This is my plight from being overexposed to such an extent to where you could call me jaded, you know, let's just put it that way, where it's yes, obviously I'm objective, but at the same time, it's like, the fact of the matter is Charlie Kirk never meant anything to me. I understand why people, you know, legitimately look, it's a major high impact event. I understand why there's a reaction to it. But for me, I'm so far away and unplugged from that influencer industrial complex that Charlie Kirk was a very much, you know, compromised asset within that environment. Not to entirely condemn him or whatever the case may be. It doesn't even really affect me, if I'm being honest, because I don't allow them to basically promote their propaganda in my subconscious mind. I get to where, yes, they have some sort of influence on my algorithm, whether I like it or not. It's a subconscious influence. Yes, it will overall affect me. I should be hyper aware of those things. But so that's where you have the Candace fatigue that Jose keeps referring to, which it's like, yeah, that's why I think from day one, I've been kind of like shouting from the rooftops that Candace Owens is one of the compromised assets setting the table of what we're allowed to even engage in as far as public discourse. And beyond that, she's inherently muddying the water and also poisoning the well, which is like fascinating that all of these, kind of just influential, prominent personalities that are fulfilling that very same role. This is almost, it is kind of the apex of their viability of what they provide the network in general. And so that's what they're really here for. And so I don't know, it's a struggle for me because I see so many people just tuned in to every last word and opinion that these individual personalities claim to represent or promote from their platforms. And in reality, it's staging the framework of allowable opinion. It's legitimately staging the entire concept of what we're allowed to engage in as political discourse. And so I just see every last opinion coming out of these camps, not to entirely dismiss them, because I mean, once again, I even referenced, the lapel mic exploding as a possibility.
Yeah, I heard,
it is a possibility. You know what I mean?
Can I butt in for 1 second?
Of course,
because
buddy.
To your point, dude, this is the part that bothers me the most is anytime somebody comes at me with something that is counterintuitive or like official to, not even counterintuitive, but counterintuitive to my narrative or official to their narrative.
Right.
I'm automatically like, they're like, oh, so you listen to Candace Owens? And you're like, I listen to everybody and I'll take everything in and I'll sparse the shit out that I think is realistic. But at the same time, like, I'm not an idiot. I think Candace is fucking, the shit that she's putting out there is I mean, it's clearly to create a division. It's clearly, it's gay as fuck. It's clearly to create a division. I don't mean that derogatory. Sorry, everybody, but it is what it is. It's like, it bothers me that it's so polarizing to the rest of the people that they automatically jump on, oh, it was Tyler Robinson that shot the bullet. And I'm like, maybe it was. Maybe it was. And I have no problem with that. Bury him under the prison. What happens to the rest of the people involved? And there's never an answer for it. And that's the part that bothers me.
Real quick, Beans, I've had you mentioned the immunity. I know I covered this in the show, so I think it was Andrea Burkhart that I'd pulled up something from her when I covered on my show, but I found something from Viva Frei, so another lawyer. Although I know a lot of I have lawyer friends who talk shit about Viva Frei and his lawyerly abilities, but either way, here I think he'll be okay. I think the immunity thing was a little bit of a misnomer, a little bit of from my understanding. Here's what Viva Frei is saying. Lance Twiggs is not getting immunity. He was granted use immunity for his statement only. He can still be prosecuted for crimes, simply that the initiating evidence cannot be the statement he provided. If the evidence is discovered through means other than the statement, he can be charged. Which I know it sounds like a dumb distinction, but law is goofy like that sometimes.
Yeah,
so,
and I'll tell you, that's my apologies. I might have gotten it wrong. My confused part mostly is he disappeared for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he glows. Yeah, for sure.
What's up with that? Yeah. So
but the immunity thing, I mean, no, it's not your fault. This is just what happens. People find something, it gets misconstrued, which totally, I get it. From the outside looking in, none of us here are legal scholars. We just see immunity, we go, what the fuck? But no, I guess it's just for the purposes of he can't be incriminated for, I guess, anything specifically. I mean, although it sounds like he can still be charged for crimes, but they have to find initiating evidence somewhere else other than from there. So, I mean, I guess sort of in an abstract sense is immunity. But I think we're going to move, Beans, I think we'll go ahead and bring on Rage here, unless there's something else you particularly want to talk about. But I figure we bring in Rage.
Yeah,
go ahead and bring this Rager to a close, unless you got something
bring
else
in
for us,
Rage.
bud.
No, bring in Rage. I just wanted to say, the last point. I appreciate you, Austin, bringing up like specific like smaller figures because again, we talk about a Martin Luther King, a JFK, and Abraham Lincoln, but we don't talk about these smaller figures that were dealing with the exact same problems that were taken out, potentially under really weird coincidences, that were connected to all of these different, I guess, networks, if you could call them that. Like when we're talking about again like a Gary Caradori or a Dark Alliance, Gary Webb, like these kinds of people kind of slip through the fingers of the normal everyday person, and those kinds of people are the people that really need to be shined on because that's where you can really get to the heart of the truth. So that was it.
Hell yeah, appreciate you, Beans. Love you, brother.
Appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Hell yeah, we'll see you on the next one. You're out of here. Rage! Bringing this Rager to a close. How fucked are you right now, my brother?
Well, that's debatable.
Okay, you're all right. I can hear in your voice. You're not even
on
drunk
what
at
scale?
all. Yeah, like on a 0 to 10, I'd give you like a 2 right now, to be honest, if I had to guess.
I don't even smoke cigarettes, so...
Oh, maybe you are pretty fucked up. I'm just going off your voice. Usually you can hear it in the voice. Oh, so what's up, Rage? How you been, buddy?
I'm making it happen. That's for sure.
Do you have anything for us, or is it just going to be an awkward drug interaction? What you got, Rage? What's on your mind? What in the conspiracy parapolitical world? You want to? There's aliens. Aliens coming. Dr. Phil's fucking bitching about aliens.
I guess what's funny is that this was like a month ago when that Disclosure movie came out. So I went to take my son. He wanted to see the Backrooms movie. But it was rated R, and they're like, "Oh, anyone under 7 can't go." So I was like, "What the fuck?" I already bought tickets, so then I had to go and buy tickets to the fucking Disclosure movie because it was.
You try to bring a 70-year-old to a rated R movie? So you just said.
No, he's 5.
Okay, I don't know this movie, so maybe it makes it okay. I don't know, but go on.
I don't know. It's a bad whatever. It's fucking kid. It was a good movie, but it's like a kid's fucking. Ironically, it's like a kid's thing. And there wasn't anything like rated R about it other than like a couple of bad words and like maybe some gore. But that's nothing. I've made him watch like scary movies his entire life, so it's no fucking.
Ain't raising no bitch.
Anyways, so I had to buy tickets to the fucking Disclosure movie, which I still haven't seen. But I bought tickets to that, and we snuck in. So he snuck into his first movie because we both snuck into the Backrooms movie after they wouldn't let us in. But I bought tickets to the other movie. Anyways, it's a good film. I mean, it was crazy. The Backroom shit. I don't know if anyone knows about it, but it's like kind of like gay Reddit, 4chan shit. But it was a pretty good movie. I was entertained. But I guess, I don't know. Have y'all talked about the Disclosure Day movie? Like, I know I've been gone for like fucking a month.
We talked about it, I think, somewhat recently a little bit. I mean, I haven't watched it. I gotta say from outside looking in, it's kind of looked like a dud. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
like
concerned.
A bunch of fucking
boomers, like all worked up about it.
They're like the aliens are like, oh, humans have to find sympathy and like be nice to each other. And I'm like, dude, who fucking did this? Steven Spielberg, the Jew. And it's like, where's the sympathy on the Gaza shit? It's kind of a long point, but just a starter here, a little taster for everybody. But that was a month ago, and as far as right now, I mean, today I saw Candace going on. I mean, we're talking about the Charlie Kirk shit, which is going on right now, obviously. And she's like saying that fucking Tyler Robinson used his credit card at a fucking steakhouse, and she's like at 9:47 p.m. And she said she was gonna say do something about the fucking, I guess, I don't know, break it down. I hadn't seen anything on her page about it. But I don't know. I mean, that goes to I'm with you guys where everyone's like, we saw the fucking footage, we were there, and then I know what's his name, he was in like an old film or a television series a long time ago, and he came out recently and he was talking about how like they put on this VHS tape, and I saw this like human sacrifice, and there's a dim lit room, and they were wearing robes. There was a guy on the table, and they started cutting into him, and they started eating him. Like basically like some satanic ritual that he was talking about that they made him see when he was a kid back in the day. And then they went to like a video of him, and they're like, so he was at the trials today, and then like kind of building it up like he was there in the fucking seats, and he was kind of, and then he goes on explaining, he's like, yeah, no, I was on the way down here and I watched it on YouTube, and it kind of like blew up the whole fucking thing in their face. Yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was on some random ass show. But yeah, he was, and like I'm not even joking. Probably like 3 or 4 days before that, I saw the video of him talking about how he saw the satanic ritual, in front of like someone gave him the VHS tape. But obviously they're not going to say. I can't. If I look it up right now, I might be able to find it. But his name, I can't think of it right now, but he was on some random fucking rinky-dink show back in like the 80s, I think, that, I mean, you really wouldn't give a shit about, but he was kind of like a child star at the time, and now he's all old as fuck. No offense to anybody who's old as fuck. And he's at the he was like one of the, I think it was Fox, and they put him on like the main thing, and then he was like, Tyler, we've seen all the evidence. You might as well just turn yourself in. And it was a crazy turn of events from watching him like make a live stream video of like explaining how they just showed him a fucking VHS tape about a satanic ritual where they're eating somebody's body, like a man's body. And then like a couple of days later, he's at the fucking Tyler Robinson trial, and they're interviewing him, assuming he was there, like in the actual courtroom. But then he's like, yeah, no, I saw it on YouTube on the way to the courthouse, and it just kind of like blew up in their face. Fuck, if I can remember it, I don't even know how to
Uncle
look up.
Ted has said you're thinking of Schroeder from Facts of Life.
No, I don't think it was Facts of Life, but the last name is hitting.
Schroeder. Who
it's
is
some
that?
fucking Polish ass shit like that.
Schroeder, actor. I'm not seeing anything for Schroeder.
Yeah, it's
not
something
anything
like
for
that. It's
SH.
not on the nose, but it's some shit like that. And it's not Facts of Life. I don't think it's Facts of Life. It's some like random ass, like 3-season ass series that they had.
Ricky Schroeder is what.
Yeah, that's the one.
Schroeder.
That's that fucking dude. I don't know if the last name's correct, but it's Ricky Schroeder or some shit like that. I think there's the OEDER. But
Ricky Schroeder.
Yeah.
Okay, American actor Ricky Schroeder. Okay, I've seen this guy and stuff. Okay, so satanic claims. Let me see. Let's see what comes up for that. For Satanism. Oh shit. Okay. What I found, a Return of Cappy thing here. It says former. Okay, what do we got? Okay, it's a little actually. This would make for a little bit of an interesting outro. It's it's about a 4-minute clip, so we can play this as an outro, I guess, of Ricky Schroeder describing the satanic ritual he's forced to watch during a stint in Hollywood. Yeah, I have that set up. I guess we probably could play. I think that'd work well for an outro. Fuck, we just lost Austin. Maybe we ought to play it now. I don't know where he went.
He's got to pee.
Yeah, we only just had an intermission, so. Well, fuck. I didn't realize he had left me. What the fuck? Oh, there we go, Austin.
I feel like he'll be back. No, there he is. There he is.
All right, Austin. I found the video Rage is talking about, but I think it's probably a good time to probably do plugs, and I'll play it as an outro on our way out.
Well, shit.
And because I found it's almost a 4-minute long video of Ricky Schroeder, which is what Rage was describing to us. Giving his describing supposed satanic ritual he's part of. And this was a former Hollywood child star. You'll recognize him when you see him. But Rage, we're gonna let you go, brother, because we're gonna get out of here. We'll see you on the next one. So skedaddle, motherfucker. Love you, brother.
Love y'all.
Bye. Austin, where can people find you at? We'll go and get out of here. We'll do this again next week. Same time, same place.
Yeah, I was really hoping we'd talk about Hunter S. Thompson. That was the number one thing I wanted to talk about all night. But
next week. That's evergreen.
Fuck it. All right. I'm going to do whatever this is here in a minute. So everybody definitely keep your eyes peeled for that tomorrow. Yeah, the Underclass podcast, you guys know. Definitely support me at the Patreon. It's the best place to support me. And then, yeah, keep your eyes peeled for a few different things. I have some interviews coming up as well. So that'll definitely be a good time. And I think yeah, next week we'll definitely have to talk about Hunter S. Thompson because I felt like it just perfectly dovetailed with our conversation last week. And actually it was a patron that hit me up and kind of sent me back down that rabbit hole. So I was really hoping to talk about that more than any Charlie Kirk shit. But I so we spent a lot of time on something that I was more interested in discussing
way too long
week.
on Lindsey Graham for some reason.
Yeah, bro, we spent way too much time on that, but it's okay. It's all good. I'm just extraordinarily frustrated because I swear to God, it was like it's extraordinary information. I just think it's far more valuable and relevant to the current moment, as much as people are convinced that the Charlie Kirk assassination. I mean, I get it. Right. I think we should effectively come to a conclusion in our own way, obviously remain objective, remain plugged into the details. But I just don't think it deserves, the priority attention slot is all that I'm saying. I think there's so much more that is far more relevant and imperative to understand, structurally speaking, just philosophically speaking, every other aspect of how they sort of deliberately deceive us on a given daily basis. It's just it's overwhelming, but understanding, really, I think the perfect pathway from just just talk about psychological engineers and mind war operatives that have sophisticated their methods over time for generations. I just think that Tavistock was one of the most crucial, fundamental organizations worth pointing out and spotlighting, and also fundamentally understanding what their goals were in regard to. I think Tavistock was almost one of the most vital organizations in regard to becoming a stepping stone to implementing the globalist mind control framework, because I legitimately do believe that at this very current moment, and I believe it was the way that I described it, one of my favorite episodes that I ever actually covered was the Committee of 300, right? I just feel like it's one of those, again, it's not only a culture creation entity, but it legitimately has, I think, just in terms of the diabolical level of influence, it's just, we legitimately have to find ourselves in a moment where we appreciate the concept of the totalitarian nature that is just in terms of, we need to understand, right, how they're kind of implementing this at the ground level. And so I think we should all just, at the very least, require ourselves to imagine a world where we have all been conditioned to effectively facilitate our own oppression. And until we have become willing to acknowledge the culture creation, the cultural touchstones utilized to effectively exploit us and deliberately deceive us and influence us into accepting and embracing some of the most fundamental and just talk about self-defeating philosophical notions that the vast majority of the general public are promoting, not only embracing, but promoting. So I just feel as if, this is a trap, right? An Orwellian trap that has been conveniently laid through that prism of legitimately just, I think, and again, all of this is a very much a discouraging prospect, but I just think it's finally important for us to realize that we're ushering in and effectively facilitating basically the largest open air prison in human history is really how you can kind of look at it. So I think that the Tavistock Institute was only a beacon of culture creation we can point to, and it extends very much into the West. And the Esalen Institute was a major proponent of the very same philosophical principles, and the human potential movement and every other new age concept that has been sewed into the social framework in modern society. It has only been to inevitably disrupt I think the natural progression of modern society, in general. And so again, we'll discuss it next week. Absolutely. It's just something that I find to be probably more concerning and more, it definitely feels like it's something that we should better understand for ourselves if we're going to even engage in this level of, again, the influencer industrial complex and how much they have basically disrupted the natural flow of what they call, right, the what's the term in regard to the public square, right? But anyway, the point being is that I appreciate you all, but I think culture creation and fraternal organizations of powerful influence deserve our attention more than anything. And they have fundamentally structured society to become what it is today. So I appreciate you all. Nothing but love. I'll catch you next week.
Hell yeah, brother. For those who want to support what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcasters, and Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at TowerGangJose. Everywhere else, it's No Way Jose Podcast. If you want to support the show the best way you can do it with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. I almost said the QR code. I forgot I don't have it set up. Over at the low level of $2, you get access to early episodes. Keep about 1 to 2 of them behind the paywall at any given time, or any week I do 1 to 2 behind the paywall. Keep about 3 or 4 behind the paywall at any given time. There's like 5 right now, actually, so there's a lot. I'll also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed, give you guys access to Telegram, the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls on this show right here, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Also give you guys a big shout-out to those who are the highest level of Patreon. Is a big thank you for their support. And my previous host on Tower Gang, at Leonard Toad. Also, at Brigade D's, at ZVRCK, at _ Zeal, Tim Tall, at John Glebo, big fan of the show, Torme, at Wayne Tackers, America for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Gaspiel, Jacob Wintergad of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast, and John Black, you beautiful bastard. And with that, check out this outro. What do we say this guy's name is again? This is former Hollywood child star Ricky Schroeder. He's describing a supposed satanic ritual that occurred that he witnessed. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
Child actor Rick Schroeder recently released a video of a childhood experience he had in Hollywood where he believes he met members of this cult.
Let me explain. When I was young, I couldn't drive yet. I was hanging out with the older guys out on Point Doom, and somebody popped in a cassette tape into a VHS player, and there was a room with a body, I believe it was a male, laying on a table, and people came around the room. It was dimly lit, but they had hoods and robes on, and they had some sort of ritual where they took out a knife and they cut him down the side. It was his right side, and they took out parts of him, and the blood started flowing, and they were chanting, and there was women there, and they took off their clothes, and then they took the blood and they smeared it on their bodies and started to be sexual with each other. It was quite disturbing to see. And so they gave me the cassette, and I took the cassette to somebody I trusted, and we watched it. And they said, never watch that again and give it back to whoever gave it to you. So I did that, but I was always confused about why they didn't ask where it came from. And so I believe that I met some of the cult members when I was younger. If in fact we have no accountability or justice, it could be because these people that are supposed to bring us justice and protect and defend the Constitution are corrupted by this cult. I have no fear of them. You know, I only fear Jesus. And so perhaps whoever's investigating these folks needs to go a layer below the top and come up from the mid-level, who are not cult members, or been blackmailed by the cult, possibly. Because that's the only explanation I have for why we haven't had accountability and justice for what they've done to America and continue to do to America, while we all just watch. So I share this with the hope that those mid-level people that are investigating in the FBI and the CIA will understand that their superiors perhaps will never give us justice because of the level of blackmail involved. All right, that's off my chest. That feels better. Now you all know. God bless America, and God bless those trying to defeat this cult. In Jesus' name, I give you this message. Amen.